Well, hello and welcome to the channel. My name's Johnny and you're watching Hillbilly Modeling. So this is going to be part 5, and I number these to keep them straight in my head, you know. At any rate, part 5 of our Russian heavy tank, JS-2, model 1944, by Tamiya, or Tamiya if you prefer. I just like the sound of Tamiya better than Tamiya. So, yeah, this video is going to be about finishing up our painting. So we've got some chipping to do. We're going to do that. Going to add some scratches, and then we have all the little fine things that need attention. You know, painting up our spare tracks and our tools, and of course for the turret, we're going to wherever the turret is. Oh, it's back. It's back here. So, those white stripes. You know, I really like that, the Berlin campaign there. So that's what we're going to be doing here in this video, and getting everything ready so we can do our weathering and final assembly and all that. So we need to quit wasting time and get to work, because we've got a lot of stuff to do. So let's jump down to the bench and get to work on this. All right, so let's start off with some sponge chipping. So we have some water and some Q-tips or cotton buds, whatever you want to call them. And I am using a piece of synthetic sponge, which is actually packing material from, I don't know, some sort of optics or something that I bought a long time ago. And you just kind of tear off a piece. And you can see the real close cells here, which makes it a really, really fine, small chips, and that's really what we're going after. We're going after the finest, smallest chips we can possibly do. So our chipping paint is going to be this German Panzer Gray here. It's nearly black, and we've already used it before in this build. This was our original primer coat. So we just need a little bit of paint and something to unload the paint. So first thing we do is we load the sponge up, and then we're going to unload it because we're not technically painting. We're just doing some slight transfer of this paint in really, really small little dots. And we can just start. I'm just going to start here on this flat surfaces here, kind of get my rhythm down. And, yeah, there we go. That's a mistake. See, that's too big, and that's what that water and that earbud is for. We need to go ahead and take care of a mistake right away, because in about 30 seconds, it's not going to want to come off. Well, yeah, I got another big one. I'm going to have to take care of that one too. But it's just a matter of the process here. By adding chips to these real flat fenders, you know, adds a little bit more interest to it. Not going to go too crazy with it. Just add some chips. See? That's kind of what it looks like there. So that's working out really nice for us. Now, the other areas that you need to concentrate on will be sharp or high edges. Like I'm doing this visor here for the driver's compartment, just catching those lower edges, you know, and kind of up on the side a little bit. And of course, the top of the headlight bucket there, it needs some chips as well. And then the way this hull is made, it really, really offers itself up to sponge chipping. I imagine you could use hairspray chipping too. I don't do too well with that. If you've seen the last video, you know that something unexpected happened in my hairspray chipping. So we're going to try hairspray chipping again later on in this video. So you can see here, I'm just going to continue this sponge chipping, and we're kind of catching these cheeks here right on the front of the turret. You know, those are areas that will catch more abuse. Maybe that's, yeah, more abuse. And the tops of our lifting hooks there, and we'll just continue around. The good thing about this turret is it does offer plenty of areas there to kind of refine some more densely populated chipping areas, like this little cheek here on the side of the turret. Kind of bumps out there a little bit. And then, of course, the corners there from the casting. Now, you don't want to forget all the other parts of the tank, such as road wheels and drive sprockets and support rollers, and we got our external fuel tanks to take care of. Pretty much everything. So as you do this process, make sure that you don't miss that. So here I was trying to do a scratch, and again, too much paint, and I am using a toothpick or a cocktail stick. So some of the better looking scratches that I managed to get, I do by kind of skipping, kind of dotting rather than just dragging the paint, and sort of like a Morse code, ta 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 ta. I think those type of scratches, look pretty good. So, and wherever we put these scratches, they don't have to make sense, but it does really help in the overall scheme of the vehicle. If you do put these where it's going to be hit by something, And right here, these little kind of like L brackets that's on the back armored cover here is where the cables wrap around. So we're kind of concentrating there, and putting some scratches and some wire marks and stuff there. That's kind of the area where it's going to make the most sense. Even though it may be covered up, with the cables later, that's totally fine, And if not, well, we'll still get a little sneak, peek around the cable there, and there's something there. So that's good. And we'll just keep doing our little chipping here and there. Now, using the toothpick is more directed, so we have a lot more control over where we want to put these things, little chips and scratches and stuff. So another area that I think is really going to be helpful here after I've thought about it, a lot of times, they had to work on the transmission and the engine and replace items. And so these rear armor plates were often removed. And as we can tell, we got these big hinges on that lower plate. So that's for access, of course. And there would be a lot of chipping around those edges. So the next thing we're going to do, we're coming back in with the same Panzer Gray, but this is the airbrush mixture. So it's really thin, and we're just kind of filling in and reestablishing that Panzer Dark Gray on these track shoes. Now these are our spare track shoes. The thing that we really need to be careful of here is those square blocks that have the bolt heads in the center of them. Yeah, those blocks are retainers that hold these spare track sections to the hull. So we're going to leave that in the green and just paint around those, and try to paint around them as straight as possible there. Yeah, and you may need 2 coats on there. This is just 1 coat, and I think it looks pretty good. You can see we left those blocks that we were talking about earlier nice and green. Kind of gives us a little bit of contrast there. I think it looks pretty good. So next we're going to be using some German dark yellow, and this is also a Vallejo water-based acrylic. Yeah, I'm using a lot of German colors here on a on a Russian tank, but that's okay though. This is going to be our base color for the wood effects. So, and I probably should have done this before going to the painting the spare tracks up, because I'm going to have to dip back into that here as soon as we get the handles painted on our tools. So we do have our shovel to do and the saw, which is on the opposite side of the upper hull there. Don't forget about those little handles that are on the saw. So once we get our paint on, and yes, it would be easier if we did this off the vehicle. And there's that spray mixture there for our our dark German Panzer Gray. So I'm going to use this to paint the metal parts. So you can use it for chipping, which we have done, and you can use it to simulate rubber, and it's good for a base color for the spare track pads and other metal parts like our lifting shackles and stuff like that, and of course our shovel head, as well as our saw, right, the metal part. So that's what the saw looks like. I didn't show painting it, but once you've seen one brush stroke, I guess you've seen them all. So our tools are all painted up, and these are in just the base colors that we're going to need. We will move on and start working on those later. We're going to let that dry, and we're going to move on and work on the headlight. And for that, we're going to be using this Testors Enamel Silver to paint our lens in our headlight. Now, pretty typical of Tamiya, they don't normally have clear parts for armored vehicles. Most of the time, it's always represented by just regular, plastic parts. So since we don't have a clear lens, we're going to have to try a little bit of magic to try to make this look more like a lens than just a silver disc. But being very careful, we'll just paint that up, and there we go. Now we're going to have to let this dry because it is enamel. It doesn't dry like acrylics, so we'll have to let that sit. So we have lots of other things to do, but before we get too far down the road, we need to take our burnt umber here, which is an artist oil paint, and we need to actually put it out, and we just need just very little, just a little bit of it there. We're going to put it on a piece of cardboard, and that'll help soak up all that excess linseed oil there, because the linseed oil is what keeps it, very pliable for a long time. That's why oil paints take so long to dry. So we're going to set that aside and kind of let that air out a little bit and soak up some of that linseed oil. In the meantime, we can go back to working on our tools here. We're going to do the saw. I need to mask up the little brackets there that the saw sets in. That way we don't get anything on the nice green color there, because that was part of my reasoning for painting the tools on the vehicle, is so that all of the brackets, are in unison with the vehicle color. So now we're going to turn to some Testors Enamel Flat Steel, and we're going to do a little bit of dry brushing here. Henceforth, the protection there with the masking tape. And what I'm trying to do here on the saw is to kind of dry brush in some areas where the paint would be removed from the saw if it were to be used to cut up trees. So we should have some shiny spots there. So we're going to try to simulate that with a little bit of dry brushing here. It doesn't look too bad. Yeah, once we throw on a little bit of weathering over top of that, that should be fine for us. So we have the shovel to do. So when it comes to the shovel, same thing, a little bit of masking tape to protect that bracket for us. And then I'm also going to slide in some little slivers of paper. Sliding in slivers of paper. Yeah, that's going to act as a shield for us there to keep us from getting that flat enamel steel onto our green paint. Well, we don't want it there. We just wanted over the German dark gray, which is what we painted all the metal parts with. And so when it comes to a shovel, just think about the edges are probably shiny. Definitely these top edges here that I'm doing, where the soldier would put his foot to push the shovel into the ground. And then anything protruding out, of course, the paint would be wore off of it. Now, if you do a bad job like I just did, you can come back in with a little bit of enamel thinner, since it is enamel paint, and we can start blending and kind of removing away anything that's, well, you just don't like, you know. And to be fair, you can almost remove nearly all the paint and start over. But you'll never get rid of all the traces with just enamel thinner there. So yeah, it's kind of what we got going on. And we can go ahead and remove all of our masking tape there. I don't want that sitting on there too long because of, you know, we got up against it with enamel paints and make it easier to remove. Just take it off right away. So, okay, next we're going to need a little bit of enamel thinner. And here is our artist oil paint. And it's been sitting on the card here for about 4 hours while I was doing other things. So what we're going to do now, I need to kind of have a little bit of protective shield here, kind of protect that green paint, because we're going to be working on our wood effects here. So with a little bit of enamel, we're just going to make us a little bit of a slurry. You know, we're reconstituting the paint. Now it still has linseed oil in it, and the enamel thinner is going to help dissipate, you know, a lot of that, but not all of it, but enough. And it's also going to be our carrier. And as you can see there, that little piece of paper there is a good guard to protect our side of the hull. And then we just need to brush on our pigments from the oil paint. And yeah, it's really that simple. And sometimes you can get a really good wood grain without having to come back over it. And sometimes you need to come back and drag a fairly dry brush over top of it to kind of do the graining. So here we're just going to get the end of our shovel done. And again, you know, protecting the rest of the vehicle. Although it would come off with some enamel thinner, but it's easier to not get into that predicament to begin with. So we'll just go ahead and protect the paint. Okay, so we have two little wooden handles here on our saw. So we're going to go ahead and take care of those two. Same procedure, protect the paint, add the pigment, and then we're going to remove our little protective strip there. We don't want anything soaking through from it, you know, and kind of sticking to our green painted upper hull there. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and go over it with the clean brush with just a little bit of enamel thinner on it. It's just very slightly damp. And we're just going to drag it along and kind of blend and, you know, get maybe some wood grain there. Probably not too much. It's a really, really small piece, so you're not going to be able to see too much on it anyway. So we'll give that a shot. And there we go. That's our wooden shovel handle. And of course we will do the handles on the saw as well. So we let everything pretty much dry and cure for, well, kind of overnight. And now I'm going to seal everything with the X22 from Tamiya. And we don't want to repeat incident where our chipping went wrong for us there, the hairspray chipping on our exhaust manifolds. So I'm going to go ahead and spray it with this Tamiya, and we're going to let that cure for at least 6 hours. So let's take a look at our painting and marking schematic here. And we have chosen the Berlin invasion stripes here. So Yeah, we got to mask all this off to kind of keep the white paint from getting all over the model. So if we look at it, it's kind of stepped down there on the mantlet. So we're going to have to reproduce that, and then we have to be careful around our ball machine gun there. And okay, so that's going to be fun to mask. So the first thing we need to do is take a look at our decals here, or decals if you prefer. And I'm going to go ahead and cut out the ones we're going to be using. I kind of like the bear with the red star, and we're going to be using the 432. So our instructions tell us to make our stripes approximately, it says about 8 millimeters. So I'm just double checking that. So the first thing I did was to line up our masking across our mantlet, and I did kind of index a steel rule here for 8 millimeters to make sure that I kind of got that a little bit straight. Now when it comes to masking the top of the stripe here, I'm using a steel rule with a T on it. And that's a sliding T, and that kind of helps us figure out exactly where we're at. And placing the turret on a flat surface like this little board here really helps us to figure out where that needs to go. So for doing our bottom masking, I went ahead and cut a 8 millimeter wide piece of cardboard here. And as you can see, that's going to give us a good indication of where we need to put our masking tape for the bottom mask there. Now I did tape the gun tube in place there so that it doesn't move on us, because that would be bad. So we need to stabilize that. Now when it comes to the cross on the top of the turret, it does overlap our loader's hatch. And yeah, we need to put that hatch into place there in order for us to get that white mark across the very edge of our loader's hatch. Now I did go in and change the width of the stripes for our white cross on the turret, on the top of the turret, to 7 millimeters versus 8, because it really makes things a little bit easier. I don't have as many items to have to worry about masking around it. And I don't think we have to be absolutely precise because most of the time these stripes were painted on with either by hand with a brush or sometimes a rag wrapped around a stick. So as you can see, we need to mark off for our decals or decals here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put a little mark there, and I have trimmed say our tank number here rather close to the actual decal, and we're just going to mark it off where we need to mask. And so we're masking off onto the inside. Now I have a bad habit of wanting to mask towards the outside, so pay attention to where you put your masking tape, because we do want to just cover up the green that's going to be underneath the actual number that's going to go onto the side of the turret. So using our little index lines there and getting it basically vertical. So we're going to go ahead and cover up the area where that decal is going to go, and we want to press that into place. So we have to do the same thing for the other decal, which is the bear with the red star, and as you can see, that kind of fits, and we want to make sure that our number fits as well, and we still have to do the opposite side. So yeah, we're just using our painting and marking schematic there to place these in exactly where they need to go. So the next thing to do is to cover up everything else that we don't want overspray on. But we're going to have some gaps. So I'm going to use this micro mask here. And this is a water-soluble painting mask. So right up next to, right on our mantlet here, where we have that 4-bolt pattern for the ring that goes around our gun tube, I'm just going to paint that in. It's much easier to do than it would be to try to mask. And then any gaps that we have, we will just fill using the micro mask. And it should peel off fairly easy, I hope, and yet protect the our 4BO green that's on our turret. And any little spots or areas where the tape doesn't really match, or there's going to be little gaps, I'm just going to go ahead and just fill it with the micro mask, and hopefully we don't get any overspray coming up underneath it there. Now I did go ahead and put us a little spray shield, just a piece of paper there around our gun tube, because we don't want to paint that white. That's supposed to remain green for us. So we're going to try a little bit of hairspray chipping again. Hopefully it works out better than last time. And this is what we're going to be using. This is Firm Control Tresemme. Not that I know anything about hairspray. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and we're going to decant this. I'm just going to use the cap that came on the can. And we're going to spray some down inside there. We don't need very much. Just enough to get the job done. That's probably more than we need. And we're going to pour it into our airbrush. And the reason why I'm using an airbrush to do this is because if you just use the spray nozzle that comes attached to the can itself, you can end up with droplets on the surface of your paint, which you don't want. We want a nice, even, thin coat on there, and I may be putting more on there than we actually need. So I don't know. This is kind of an experiment because we do have when we sealed the Russian 4BO green, we used the Tamiya or Tamiya X22, which is a gloss clear, and my thought process on that was to also lay down a foundation for our decals as well at the same time, which might be a mistake. I don't know yet. So once that's on, we're just going to use, this is just craft paint. This is acrylic white that we're going to use, and it is water-based as well. And my thought process of not putting on the hairspray before we put the masking tape on was that if we did that, then there could be maybe a passage or because this is a water-based acrylic we're spraying over top of it, maybe that water would loosen the hairspray and allow the paint to wick up underneath our masking, which would really waste all that time that we spent masking this up. We only use like, I don't know, maybe $4 worth of masking tape here on the turret. So yeah, we don't want to have that happen. So that's kind of how I was thinking about it. So now we have, it's kind of like Christmas. You don't know what's in the box till you get it unwrapped. So let's go ahead and unwrap this thing. Now it is going to stick in some of those areas where we put the liquid mask on to kind of seal up some of those little areas that we couldn't quite get in there to mask off with the masking tape. But that's okay. I mean, it is water soluble as well, so if we get a stubborn piece of that liquid mask that doesn't want to come off, we can just touch it with a little bit of water, and that should help it release and come off for us there. So I'm going to go ahead and just get all this masking tape off the turret. So if all of our masking tape is gone, there are these little areas where I did put the liquid mask on, and I'm trying to kind of scrape it off. Now, I don't want to use anything metal, of course. We don't want to scratch through our paint, because then we're going to have to come back and touch that up. But we can get in there and hopefully get most of it out of there. And like I say, I think you can use a little bit of water. We may try that. One of the things that is difficult to do, especially on this 4-bolt ring that goes around our actual gun tube, is that liquid mask has got down in behind those bolts, of course, and it makes it a little bit difficult to get it to release, to come out. So once I get it pushed down, maybe I can grab a hold of some of it there. I'm probably using the wrong tweezers to do this, because it's kind of pulling through instead of grabbing onto enough of it. But I need to get in real close, so that's why I'm using the little bitty tweezers there. Probably some flatter tweezers. That thin and flat would probably work much better than these sharp ones here. But I don't really have a pair of tweezers like that. Something to add to the shopping list. It's always funny when you get into something, you figure out as many tools as you have available, you always find that there is something else that might help just a little bit more, might be a better tool. So that's kind of how I approach modeling. So I will be looking into getting me some flatter jaw tweezers to be used in the future. So, now, we did have a little bit of overspray. I guess it's underspray, where it came up underneath our masking tape there. And I don't know how in the world I got it right there, but I did. So I'm just using a cotton bud here with a little bit of water on it. And man, that really wiped off easy. And I mean, it just cleaned right up. Which makes me wonder, because right now, right there, I've made a little boo-boo there. I got into our stripe more than I had intended to, because I didn't really intend to get into the stripe, and it really just wiped right off. So that could be a combination of things, the gloss clear coat and the maybe the wrong hairspray. Maybe instead of firm control, I need, light control or something like that. But, you really don't know if you don't do this all the time and you haven't experimented with things, then you don't really know the true combination of the product to use. So in this case, I think I will be using a different hairspray, or when I go to seal the paint, I'll just use a flat acrylic instead of a gloss acrylic. So I don't know. However, I am kind of worried. As easy as I got into the stripe up there next to the commander's cupola, that I'm going to have to be very delicate when it comes to doing a little bit of chipping on our white markings here, because I really don't want it. We don't want it to come off in sheets. That would be bad. Remember, in chipping, a little bit is believable. Great big sheets of it missing is, well, it might not be. It could be historically correct, but it won't be aesthetically pleasing. So, I guess it's all about taste, huh? Well, how you want your model to look. Now, right here, I am playing it kind of safe. I just want to clean up that flat edge that goes around our ball machine gun there. It just a little bit of kind of feathering there from the, we'll call it underspray, where it got up underneath our tape there. So, yeah, I think we're going to be okay. Well, okay. Well, we got our white stripes on anyway. And you can see, I think I said in front of the commander's cupola. I meant in front of the, if you could see it right there, in front of our loader's hatch. Yeah, I kind of wiped the chip away there. Well, actually, that's not a chip. That's just a swipe. It's just kind of gone. But that's okay. That's all right. You know, this is kind of a learning thing. Everything that I do here on the channel, just to let you know, everything that I do here on the channel, I did it the first time on the channel. It's not something that I experiment with in the background and then then I show you, the great result. I didn't show you all the failures. No, I'm going to show you. I'll show you. Going to show you everything. So yeah, I don't know if it was a great idea to use the gloss clear coat for underneath the chipping or not. Now, I've seen other modelers do that, and they had good results, so I assume I can do it, right? So, yeah, so that could be part of it, and then the other part could be that I'm using hairspray that might not... I probably need to experiment more with more hairspray, but I mean, unless I'm modeling, I don't really have a need for a whole lot of that hairspray. So I guess you could always donate it Goodwill or something if it doesn't work out. But yeah, so this is our second attempt at doing some hairspray chipping. Now you can use chipping fluid too. Ammo by MiG has some, and I think there's another name brand out there that doesn't really come to mind at the moment that produce hair or chipping fluid, which you can use and see how that works. Now, I am not going to continue at the moment with trying to chip this, and that's where we go in with water and a brush and work it a little bit. Because it's only been about 30 minutes since we took the masking tape off, if that. And if this paint and that hairspray still has moisture in it from the drying process, because the paint is not pure, I'm afraid it's going to release too easily. And if it does that, then it may come off in sheets. It may come off in sheets anyway. I don't know. So I'm going to have to let this dry some more before I can before I start working it, because I don't want it to turn into a disaster, because I really hate the thought of the idea of having to mask all this again and shoot it again and start over. But yeah, well, that's the way it is. Modeling's an experiment. So so you're going to have to wait till next week, next Friday. And we'll see how this hairspray chipping works out for us. Yeah, I mean, we have done hairspray chipping on the channel before. Remember the blade that was on our M60A3? If you saw that build earlier in the year, and that worked out pretty good. That really did work out well. So I'm hoping that we can get some really fine chipping and stuff. And we'll probably use a toothpick to do most of it. That way, we're very targeted there. So, all right. So that's it for this part, and so look to next Friday for the next part. So, thanks everybody that are subscribers. It's because of you guys that I keep making these videos, and I hope that you enjoyed this one. If you did, don't forget to give it a like, and if you're new to the channel, I hope today I earned your subscription. So until I see you guys again next Friday, y'all stay safe.